Instagram.
All right. What's going on, everybody?
What
We
up,
are
man?
actually, we are only a minute late.
Well, okay, so
Technically
y'all,
16 minutes because we pushed the time back.
I lied to y'all on my stories and said we were going live in 15 minutes when it was really 30 because he had pushed the time back and I didn't realize that. Oops.
Because I figured if we know we're not going to be at 10:30, why do we keep saying 10:30?
So 10:45.
Now the challenge is, now that if we're going to do 10:45, we can't start doing it at 11.
We can't start being 15 minutes late.
So we're going to shoot for 10:30, and then 10:45 is if we get there at 10 earlier. So hopefully now, if we shoot for 10:30, we're going to make this go live at 10:45. We may be early now.
Yeah. So you can miss us trying to set the camera up. And
Self-manage. Okay.
we didn't have to adjust our cameras today.
No. All right. So what are we talking about today? This is your idea. This is something you wanted to talk about.
Yes. So
Although we're going off of some of the information that's in this wonderful document, Body Confident by me.
y'all need to get the Audible. If you haven't gotten the Audible, I'm obsessed. He hates hearing his own voice, but y'all, he did the Audible himself this time, so it's his voice. I loved it. I think it's incredible. And yeah, basically we're going to be talking about, I said, we need to hit every point you made in your book. I don't know if we're going to cover all those points about this topic, but yes, we want to get back a little bit more in the weeds into the practical application of nutrition and fitness, because we are always beating the drum of mindset. We will always beat the drum of mindset. We will always end up going back to that. It will always have a thread in every topic.
Hi, everybody.
We've been going hard on the mindset lately, so we really wanted to get into some practical stuff for y'all. So today's topic is all about exercise intensity. How do you know if you're doing enough or too much?
Or too much. That's the big one. Well, and we see a lot of both of these. A lot of people aren't doing enough to make a change, and a lot of people are doing more, so the changes they're making are actually hurting their progress, not helping their progress. And I'm thinking, as I say this, we're going to talk. You guys know I love concepts. And we're going to talk specifically today about fitness intensity. But understand the concept of intensity and the concept of applying stimulus to make a change is across the board in every aspect of your life. Your work can be more intense or less intense than it should be for your performance on your job. Your relationships, the way that you interact with all the different aspects of your life, can be you doing more than you need to, or you not doing enough in order to make it better.
Diet.
Right? Diet.
Boy, we see that
So
all the time.
this goes across the board. So we're going to talk about fitness. And if you're listening to this and you're thinking, I've got this under control, I'm following Coach Nat's program, I'm following Coach Bronson's program to the T, and I know that they account for these things and I'm seeing the progress I need to see in my fitness. Don't discount the message because it doesn't apply to fitness in your life. Maybe it applies somewhere else.
Yes.
Okay? Because we say all the time, everything is everything. So if you're learning a concept that applies to one thing, it's very likely it applies to something else.
And we're going to talk about this today, but your program does not dictate, or does not always dictate, the intensity with which you should be working.
Right.
It will, like in what I do, I advise, but I'm not in there working with you. So you are the one that determines the intensity with which you are following the program. You might have a program. Some programs will give you a number or a percentage, which we're going to get into some of the terminology. I think this is going to be a really cool topic for y'all because we're going to break down some terminology in the fitness space to help you understand what some of these numbers and terms mean when it comes to assessing your intensity and how you are executing the plan. But a program, even though some programs will dictate the level of intensity, it's not the paper is not necessarily going to be able to create what you need to do, what you need to take ownership over to create the changes that you're trying to create. So ultimately, you are the owner of your intensity and your results.
Yep. I'm glad you ended with that word, because that is the guiding factor for all of this. Whenever we talk about, are you blank, 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 is this working blank, 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 is this the best blank, 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 it always comes down to the only answer is the one that's getting you the results you're looking for. So if you're curious after this conversation that we're going to have, am I doing too much or am I doing too little? The question is, are you making the progress that you think you need to make, or that you want to make, or that you're trying to make? And which of the things that we're going to talk about do you think you're doing more of that's hurting that progress? Do I need to push more? If I'm feeling some kind of way when Coach Bronson, Coach Nat say you're not working hard enough, and here's how you know, then it's possible or probable that I'm not working hard enough. If I feel some kind of way when Coach Bronson and Coach Nat say you need to chill out and take a rest day, it's not all about killing yourself in every workout, and you don't need to work out 3 times a day, then it's possible that I'm doing too much and I need to cut back, right? So feelings are triggers. What is it? Feelings
are not facts.
Feelings are not facts. They are alerts, they're triggers, they're flags that say, hey, this is something I need. Signals, yes. That's what I'm looking for.
Yes.
Signals that say this is it. So if you're feeling some kind of way, this conversation.
Probably a reason.
There's probably a reason for it. Okay.
All right. So.
Getting into, we want to lay some definitions. Give you some definitions and lay a basic so we're all talking the same language. In the book, if you're interested and you get the book, this is all covered in chapter 8, fitness principles, okay? When we talk about improving our fitness, the idea in general is that, number one, fitness is not just what you do in the gym. Fitness is about what we do in everyday life.
Life, yes.
Okay? So when we improve our fitness, by definition, we are improving our health. Therefore, we are improving our quality of life. All of this stuff is the same thing. So what we're going to talk about is centered around the idea that when we engage in fitness activity, our goal is to improve our quality of life, not lose weight. Okay? So, if we can understand that the goal is to improve our quality of life, and how do we improve our quality of life? There's something I talk about in the book. There's something we talked about before. Your body's ability to do work.
I was going to say, this is where the physical ability comes in.
Right. You can physically engage in the environment around you. You have no physical limitations. You never have to say no because you physically can't do something.
And
that's what this is about.
We're going to get into this too, how hard physical activities feel to you is a factor of your quality of life.
Exactly.
Right? When
easy, air quotes, things feel really hard, then that is a negative impact on your quality of life.
Yes. This thing makes me think of a question I've gotten before with people starting my program who, there's some exercises that are floor exercises. Hey, there's some exercises I can't do because I can't get down to the floor and back up. What do I do? What do I substitute those exercises with?
Yep. What do you tell them?
What you...
you stole something from me?
What you taught me. Just practice getting down to the floor and back up first.
Yep.
Because you not being able to get down to the floor to do an exercise on the floor is a problem. And instead of putting a Band-Aid on that and saying, okay, well, let's just give you exercises from a chair. Well, we can do that too. We can work on these from both ends, right? I can modify the exercise so you can develop the strength in those muscles that you're going to need to be able to do that exercise. But also, at the same time, the most important thing that you need to work on is just being able to get down and back up.
Yep.
So things like that, right? The question came up recently about, do I need to be doing cardio, right? I have this conversation all the time. Do you need structured cardio to lose weight? No. But can you go up a flight of stairs without getting winded? If the answer is no, then some cardiovascular activity would be good for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's not in the effort, this is another piece of it, and it's not just because you need your VO2 max to be at a certain number. Okay, this is where we're talking about.
Or you're trying to hit a certain heart rate. That was
Right,
another discussion we had
this is the thing, guys. When this is a whole nother, we need to do another, next week we should do a talk on metrics are not health.
Ooh, I love that. That is so up our alley.
Or not health.
Yeah.
Because this is the thing, we see people thinking another aspect of the discussion is, oh, I need to do cardio because my VO2 max is bad. Who gives a crap what your VO2 max is? I don't care what your VO2 max is.
What does it look like in practical
I don't care what
everyday
heart
life?
rate you get up to. I don't care what your A1C is. Can you do the things that you need to do every day to live a good quality of life? Focus on that before you focus on any of the other crap, and everything's going to get better.
Yeah, the grand majority of the population never has to worry about stuff like that. I've never focused on a VO2 max. If you're a cardio athlete, a marathon runner or a sprinter, maybe then, and you're competitive with it, you can start looking at those kinds of
Because that's
metrics.
a performance measure that can be specifically trained. But that doesn't mean, here's the thing, guys, your VO2 max can get better and you can still have problems walking up the stairs. Because what if it's not your cardiovascular issue that's keeping you from having a good VO2 max or getting out of having an issue going up the stairs? What if it's a muscular issue or a joint issue or a movement issue?
And we've talked about this as
When
it
you
relates
focus
to
on that
blood
one
work
mark,
before, too.
right? When you focus on that one
Yeah.
metric, you miss all the other things that could be impacting what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So, okay,
Yeah.
soapbox. Sorry. Okay, so that's the first thing. Understand that what we are doing is about quality of life and how much your body can do every single day. That being said, do we want to talk about technique and consistency at all? Just a little bit to kind of
Sure, if you want to lay the
groundwork.
part of the groundwork
Okay.
on that.
So there's three aspects when we talk about the things we do in fitness to improve fitness and our body's ability to work.
And these are the things before you start to focus on intensity, which is the topic of today.
She completes me.
It's what do you need to make sure foundational basics first, right?
Right.
Just like we talk about with nutrition. Like he said, it applies to everything. You've got to get the basics down first before you start getting into the biohacking and all the other. None of that is going to help you if you don't have the basics. So what are the basics when it comes to fitness?
The basics are understanding the movement and how to actually control your body in space. So learning how to do things properly before you make them hard. Okay, because here's the thing, how you do them can be part of the intensity factor. We'll talk about that down the road.
Yep.
But if you're learning how to squat and you're a brand new person coming in and you're like, I've never gone to the gym before and squatted, okay, great. Just practice doing it by yourself in your living room.
Body weight.
Watch some videos. Join Coach Nat's group. Send a movement video and say, hey, Coach Nat, am I doing this properly? Get some feedback. Learn how to just squat with your body weight before you start adding weight, before you start doing one-legged squats or who knows what other crazy things you may see on the internet, okay? Technique has to come first every single time. You cannot progress the intensity of your work until you have consistently executed the technique. And that's the second piece of it.
And
you
if
have
you
to do it
try
consistently.
if you try to, you're going to injure yourself.
Yes.
Or you're going to develop a poor movement pattern that will then follow you. So you may be able to do a lot of weight, but your knees are caving in every time you do a squat.
Yes.
And now you're creating problems with your knees, with your hips, with your entire body alignment that will lead to injuries down the road.
And it's limiting your performance. So this is something that I've seen a lot over the years. Somebody will come in, they'll be lifting crazy weight. They'll be doing all super complex, advanced movements, and they're at a point where they just can't get any better. And then we look at what they're doing and we break it down, and there's this dysfunction in your hips. There's this thing you're not doing with your shoulders. There's this, whatever it may be, because there's a aspect of the technique that they've never either learned or they've just gotten lazy in their execution, whatever it may be, that we have to take a step back, relearn the movement pattern, relearn how to execute the motion, and then as they develop, maintaining that, they can improve and get beyond where they were without risk of injury and improving their performance. So sometimes you got to take a step back. You get so certain volume and repetition and consistency is going to get you a long way. We see this in nutrition as well. I've been doing this forever. I've lost a ton of weight. I've been doing it forever. Now I'm stuck. Well, let's take a step back. Are you doing some things following the actual concepts? Let's go back to the basics. And sometimes you got to take a step back before you can move forward.
That is so hard for people to do. Yeah. Lower the weight, let go of the ego lifting, right? But I can do this much weight. Well, you're doing it wrong, so you can't actually do that much weight. It's like
that is a huge mindset. If you're not doing it right, you're not doing it.
Yep. He'll piss you off if you go train with him. He'll be like, that rep didn't count.
I never do that. I've never done that. But I do personally. I will. We can't not talk about mindset. I did this yesterday, a couple days ago when I was testing out my lifts. I will not record a weight when I'm testing a new max rep or a new personal record or whatever it may be. I will not record a weight if I don't feel comfortable that the technique was good enough. I know I can lift the weight. I just lifted the weight. That's maybe the most I've ever lifted in my life, but it looked like absolute dog crap.
It didn't count.
I'm not counting it because I want the record to show that I'm performing things at a certain standard of execution, right? And I'm not going to raise your standards. I'm not going to give myself that out to say, well, I got it up. That's all that counts. So that's just something, mindset thing to think about that.
You know what you said.
What?
You got it up. That's all that counts.
Well, Juliana said something that I wanted to comment on, but I don't know. Yes, Juliana, she does that to me too. Okay.
Y'all need to see the comments to really get it.
If you're not on YouTube, you missed out. Sorry.
Hashtag if you know, you know.
Okay, so that's technique and consistency. Now let's talk about intensity because you need all three, guys. In order to progress, you need to know what you're doing, do it properly, do it consistently, and then you can increase the intensity. Okay, that's how that works. Now, intensity. You want to talk about absolute intensity?
Yeah, let's get into the terms.
Okay, so there's three main terms that we need to understand when we talk about intensity. The first one is absolute intensity. That is the work that you did, right? If I pick her up and throw her across the room, then picking up Natalie and throwing her across the room is the work that I did. No ifs, ands, or buts, that's the work that I did, right? So if I squat 100 pounds, I squatted 100 pounds. 100 pounds is the absolute intensity of the work that I did. What did you do, right?
This is the easiest one to understand.
The easiest one to understand. Okay?
Yep.
That is how we define
what did you do with proper technique.
With proper technique. The overall assumption is that you're doing this with proper technique and you've practiced it. Okay?
Yep.
So that's what you did. What did I do? If I'm trying to improve my absolute intensity in my life and I'm having an issue walking up and down the stairs, then being able to walk up and down the stairs is the absolute goal that I'm reaching for.
I love that.
That is the goal.
Up and down off the floor.
That is the work.
Yes.
Okay, done, simple, straightforward.
For bodybuilding terms, if you're lifting in a certain range, right, it says in the paper I have to do 8 to 12 reps. So I'm finding my weight for 8 to 12 reps and I'm recording it. And let's say I lifted 50 pounds in my squat for 10 reps, that's the work that I did.
That's the work that I did.
The absolute
So
intensity.
then the next time you go, you can say, did I do more work? I did
11 reps.
50 pounds for 11 reps, right? So now I know the absolute amount of work that I did has improved. It is measurable. That's the cool thing about it. Okay, it's objective.
Yes.
It is outside anything other than the number. The iron doesn't lie, right? Okay, that's the first thing. Feelings do not apply. The second one we have is relative intensity. Okay, relative intensity is the amount of work that you do the amount of effort that you do to get that work done. So if I move 100 pounds, I moved 100 pounds. There's no denying that. That's what I did. That's what I absolute. If I had to work at 80% of my effort capacity to move that's RPE.
Yeah.
If I have 100 pounds in my absolute and I move 80 pounds, then the relative intensity is 80% of the absolute. So I moved 80% of the weight that I could have moved. Okay, so it's a percentage of the absolute, basically. So if she can lift up 200 pounds over her head,
that would be awesome.
Okay, and she only does 100, then she's working
50%.
at 50% of her absolute. So relative is a percentage of absolute.
Of your
absolute.
Absolute. You're not comparing against what other women your age are doing.
Correct.
There's no comparison here. It's comparing against your absolute.
Your absolute. So understanding that this is also objective because it's based on the absolute number, okay, and it's measurable. Okay.
So what did
if
you
you're
do?
80%, if you get a workout that says do 80% for 5 sets of 6 reps, you know what your 80% is. Okay. The next time you go back and do it, and you can say, hey, wait a second, I did this last week. I think I can go a little heavier. Let me do 82%. Ooh, I did the same thing. Now it's a little higher. You can see the percentage of work that you're doing is increasing, right? Or the next time you do it, maybe the next week the plan says do 85%, where last week it said 80%. But the rep number doesn't change.
Now, is this the kind of thing, this would be a good thing, I think, to explain, where you're talking about percentage of your 1 rep max, for example? I just had a question in my group the other week about 1 rep max. What is this 1 RM I'm seeing in the app?
That's exactly what this is about.
Now, the question was, does this mean I'm supposed to be hitting that number next time I do the workout? And I said, no. Oh my goodness, no. Well, that's because in my program, we don't work percentages. We don't work percentages, but we also don't work 1 rep max. I'm not teaching you how to find your 1 rep max. We're not. So first of all, explain what 1 rep max is.
Yeah. So basically, when we talk about absolute work, and it doesn't have to be 1 rep max. It can be 3 rep max, 5 rep max, whatever, 10 rep max.
So we work more in my program somewhere around a 10 rep max.
10 rep, right. So basically, it's just establishing the baseline of what your maximum effort in a specific range is going to be. So then you know your absolute intensity in that range, and then you can do relative work if you want to. Okay, and we'll talk about how this applies a little bit when we talk about the third type of intensity. But when you're talking about programming as a coach, when we're talking about programming percentages, we understand what the absolute number is, and then we put in what your target percentage of relative intensity should be. So again, if my 1 rep max is 100 pounds and I want you to work at 80% of your 1 rep max, then you should be using 80 pounds in your workout. Okay? If your 3 rep max is 150 pounds, then I can estimate, this is a little bit more complicated, but I want to give you a little window. I can estimate off of your 3 rep max what your 1 rep max is.
And that is what my app does.
Right? So I can then give you 80% of your 1 rep max, or I can say, I want you to do 90% of your 3 rep max for whatever too, right? So it gives you a bunch of different things.
So if you're using workout apps like mine and others, you might see this 1 rep max number, but you've never actually done a 1 rep exercise.
It's estimating it.
It's estimating it off of the volume that you did for 10 reps or 8 reps or 12 reps or however many reps you did. So that's where that number comes from. So if we wanted to work off of relative intensity, then it would be a percentage of the absolute for that range.
Max. Right. Okay, hope that makes sense.
Think about absolute as max.
Max. Yeah.
It's a good way to
From
think
this
about
perspective,
it. From
right?
this
It's the maximum amount of work or weight that you can move in that range. Okay, so that's absolute intensity, the work bottom line that you did, relative intensity, the percentage of work, okay, that you're doing
compared to your
absolute. And then the next one is fun. Remember, those two are both objective and numbers that can be measured. Okay? Performance that is measured. That's a better way to do it.
Yeah, performance.
Okay?
Because there's numbers involved with number 3, but.
Right. The third one is rate of perceived exertion. I don't know why I'm hitting your knee. Okay?
Because it's there.
Rate of perceived exertion, or if you've ever heard anybody say RPE. I want to work to an RPE of 7 or an RPE of 9. Okay? That is, how hard do you feel that you are working to get the work done?
This is a subjective.
And this goes across any workout. It doesn't make a difference. And all sports, all whatever. Okay? Now, here's where this gets challenging. Okay, there's a couple things. Perception. It's all about feeling.
Very complex.
So there's 2 ways, and I didn't talk about the second way in the book, which I'm realizing now I should have. The first way I talked about was the idea that I can feel like I worked at a 7 in the same workout that she feels like she worked at a 9.
Right.
Because it's individual. I may be in better shape for this one thing or stronger than this one thing. If I go to lift 100 pounds over my head, that may be an RPE of 7 for me, and that may be impossible for her. That's an RPE 20. She can't even do it, let's say, right? So it has nothing to do with the exercise, the weight, or whatever. It's the individual's ability or condition to do the work.
Yep.
Okay? How they feel about it. Now, that's one thing. So understanding that it's subjective. You guys see this in apps all the time. Somebody will post, "Oh my God, that workout crushed me." And someone else will be like, "Oh my God, I love burpees." Right? Who says that besides me?
I don't know anyone.
Whatever it may be. But that's where you get the how you feel about a workout. When you come home all the time, you're like, "Babe, I crushed it." Ah! And then the next day you're like, "Oh, I can't lift anything. This sucks." Right?
Yep.
So the second aspect, that's in between people. The second aspect is what I just touched on, is it's also in between yourself.
Yep.
There's inter-person, I'm just making these phrases up, inter-person RPE, and then there's intra-you.
Within you
RPE. I may feel great today and crush it. And then a week from now, when I repeat the exact same workout, I may have slept like crap the night before and I go do that workout and I can't lift squat compared to what I did the exact same workout a week ago.
And
I feel like I'm working my ass off and nothing's happening.
This is where this one, because it's subjective, there are a million variables that can impact the way a workout feels.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I always say this for my ladies because hormones.
Because hormones.
Because
you should
hormones.
You should make a t-shirt that just says
Because
#because hormones.
I love that. I love that.
#because
But
hormones.
yes, because women, we are not the same, literally, chemically, biologically, like physiologically.
Right, week to week.
Day to day and week to week.
Yeah, right.
Our hormones are fluctuating. So that alone can impact,
That's fascinating.
our RPE in a workout, the way we're feeling in a workout. So when my ladies get frustrated about not being able to lift heavier the next time, every single time, right? One factor alone could impact that, just based on where you are in your cycle. And even for my postmenopausal women, you still have fluctuating hormones. They're just not at the level that they once were.
Right. Think about where I was earlier this week, where I'm like, I need to go to the gym, but the last couple of weeks, because I've changed my program a little bit, I've been working way more
And your
intensely.
sleep was impacted this week.
Well, that was because over the past 3 weeks or so, I changed my programming. So now I'm going way more intensely, going way more often. And I had not yet adjusted my sleep to meet that new physical demand. So I was getting some sleep, what's the word, sleep debt, I guess you could call
sleep
it.
debt.
I came home from work the other day and I was like, I want to go to the gym. I need to go to the gym.
But I feel like I need a nap.
My RPE, just thinking about going to the gym made my RPE skyrocket. Like I was at 100. So I just laid down on the bed and took a nap. She said I knocked out, like I was done.
Gone.
Yeah. So it's, guys, it's a real thing.
You're not always going to have the same
Capacity.
That's a great, yes. You're not always going to have it, is what I like to call it, to give to your workout. You don't have the same amount of, capacity to work with.
Put in.
Real quick, I had a question about what is my app. So
Yes.
This is the Keto Bikini Academy. This is where we always have a program running, 6 to 8 week workout programs, macros, coaching, the whole nine.
Yep.
So the app itself the platform is Everfit that provides the platform for us, but it's the KBA app, the Keto Bikini Academy. You can get more info at the link in my bio on Instagram, or shoot me a DM. And my last couple of posts on my Instagram were about the Build program, which is officially kicking off today. But this week that we're going into is intro week. We are baselining, so the training program will not start until October 14th. So you can still get in for that, which is a 3-month program, if you sign up sometime this week before the 13th.
I almost burped in your face.
All right.
Also, wait, before we do that, I also want to let everybody know, I don't know if this even fits in this spot, but since you were just talking about KBA, KBA is one of the first F2 Method accredited training programs, coaching programs. So I am making a small shift. Is it small? It's not really that small.
Shift.
To where I will no longer be doing group programs and coaching directly. I am going to start accrediting other coaching programs for how they follow the F2 Method from a holistic and individualized coaching perspective to help provide across the board health and quality of life improvement, not just weight loss, not just tracking metrics, not just I'm going to get you a 6-pack, whatever it may be, what all the different things that people are selling out there. I want to help programs kind of create some validity and
The framework that's in this book.
yes, the framework that's in the book.
They are basically
That they're certified to be following the things that actually work to help people improve forever, not just for 6 months, not just till they hit a weight goal and then they're done. Okay, so
not just one aspect of
not
health.
just one aspect. So she's one of the first ones. If you guys know Michelle Hall, she's another one. She has a program, Primal Life, that is also accredited. If you go to my website, I have a new menu on the top that says accredited programs. They are the first two on there. Hopefully there's more coming down the road. But just want to let that out. That's the first time that's out there in the world.
So, hey, coaches, if you have a program that you think fits this framework, reach out to Coach Bronson about getting accredited.
Yes. So, okay.
Cool, little plug there.
Little plug there. So we've got
All right.
absolute intensity, relative intensity, rate of perceived exertion.
Rate of perceived
So how do
exertion
these things
would
all
be
do?
Perceived intensity,
Perceived intensity, right. So, okay, how does this all play in to getting better? I want to improve.
To figure
How am
out.
I working too hard? I don't know if I'm working too hard. How do I know if I'm not working enough? Okay.
That, exactly.
Understanding what stimulus and adaptation is and what it requires. Okay? You have to push yourself to a point where your body makes a change. Okay? This is the whole idea of progressive overload. You got to make it, you got to push it, and then it changes. You rest, it recovers, and then you can push it again.
You have to create the adaptations. So your body needs to be able to adapt to something. So if you're not giving it something to adapt to, it is not going to change.
Yes.
If you give it the same stimulus every time, it stays the same.
It stays the same. Okay? So when we're going through that process, I'm going to try to visually do a diagram with my hands so you can see, since I don't have a diagram to actually show people. So when we start out, we're starting a program. Our absolute intensity and our relative intensity are down here. Okay? We can't lift a lot.
Can't do much.
We don't know a lot of the movements. All of the different things are low.
Everything's new.
Everything feels
A lot harder.
a lot harder. Our perceived rate of perceived exertion, RPE, how hard it feels. I feel like I'm doing a Vogue thing.
That should be the cover photo. Hold that.
Vogue. Our rate of perceived exertion is really high. Okay? So when we start, everything feels really hard. But guess what happens? What happens as we get better?
That RPE comes down and the relative and the absolute go up.
Go up. Now, here's where a lot of people get stuck. They get to this point and they go, oh, I'm lifting these weights now. Everything's great. It doesn't feel like it's hard anymore. These workouts are boring. I need something different. I need some variety. I need to start doing more things to confuse my muscles.
Oh, God.
Okay? Because you're here. You've improved your fitness. You've improved your body's ability to work. So guess what you need to do now?
Make it harder.
You need to increase your intensity so that you are doing something that is no longer easy and feels harder. This is where growth happens. This, when you get here, is when you know you've made progress. This is growth. This is progress. Okay?
And you can control what happens next. So this is what he was getting at with we have people join our programs and say, oh, these workouts aren't hard enough for me. Or in mine, I have the levels, beginner, intermediate, advanced. We did a whole topic on this once about how do you know your level, your fitness level. Maybe I need to be in the advanced program.
Right.
Well, are you maximizing what you can do in the
program you're in
intermediate
now.
program? Right. Because you can dial up that intensity to make it, to increase that RPE.
And we'll talk about how to do this and how to bring it down. Bring it up, bring it down, right? It goes both directions. But understanding that what the process is versus what we want to make sure you're at. So the idea of progressive overload is really, once it becomes easy, make it hard again.
And there's a lot of ways that you can do that.
That's it. Caveat, nuance, context on top of that. Making it hard doesn't mean making it impossible. Okay? Just like we talk about in general in the journey, in the process, when we get outside our comfort zone, we push ourselves. We don't have to take a running leap over the line. You can just step across the line. Making it more difficult can literally just be add a freaking pound more than you did the week before.
Or 1 rep more.
Or 1 rep. It's more. That the only definition of progress is, did you do more? There's no qualifier for how much more it has to be.
So I taught a masterclass a while back I did a 4-part training series, masterclasses.
What's up, Vic?
I think it was August of last year. So if y'all can find that in my Facebook group, if you're in my Facebook group, Keto Bikini Secrets.
Yep.
I don't remember if I made it public on my YouTube yet or not, but I believe it was the 4th of that series. Was all different ways. I think I went over like 10 or 12 different ways that you can create progressive overload. Mm-hmm. So it's not always adding more weight or adding more reps. Those are the two kind of easiest things to think about.
3 main ways that are kind of the umbrellas that we'll talk about in a little bit.
So obviously adding more weight to an exercise, being able to lift more is the one people think of first, right? Adding more reps if you cannot yet go to that next weight, right? Now, something that he has that a lot of my ladies have that is amazing to help in the gym, especially when your gym does not have 2.5 pound increments. You want to grab them? When your gym goes up by, let's say, 5 pounds on the dumbbells or the barbell plates.
Wait, before we do this, do we have an affiliate? Is this on our? Is this on our Amazon?
It's on my Amazon.
Is it on my Amazon?
But I don't know if we have one directly with the company, but it's on my
Okay.
Amazon. So it should be on my Amazon.
Micro gains. I don't know. That looks backwards to me. I don't know if it's backwards to you guys.
Micro gains, mini micro
They have
plates.
different ones, okay? But these are little clips. This ones are the
That's
2.5.
No, that's a 1 pound, I thought.
1.25. So one of these is 2.5 pounds, or one on each side. So they little clip, right? They go right on the bar. I use these for dumbbells. Sometimes if I'm really trying to squeak out the maximum little add-on to a weight that I'm doing, I'll even put them on a barbell. But yeah, so 2 of these on a bar or a dumbbell is 2.5 pounds. So a lot of times you get to the hotel is a good one.
Oh,
You go to the
yeah.
gym and they only have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And you're like, well, I want 22, right? Or I want 25 or whatever, and they don't have it. Then you can throw these on and get that incremental weight that you're looking for.
So yeah, those are really helpful. The link in my bio on Instagram has my Amazon storefront, and that has all my lists.
I need to put that on my
List
Amazon.
idea lists is what they call them. So there's a fitness equipment, I think.
Yep.
Something like that. So weight, increasing weight, right? Even if it's just 1 pound.
Okay, well, you want to talk about the different types of intensity again? So it's just, you're kind of going in that way. We can.
Sure. Yeah,
Well,
well, we're
finish
talking
with-
about progressive overload.
Right. Specifically from a weight perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, because there's other things too.
Weight
So-
is just one. It's
Right,
just
so
one.
this is another one of those concepts that goes beyond just weight. Like she said, it's not just weight. Sometimes there's time, there's other things. So when we think about how do we make these changes? What are we looking to improve? Just like with our health journey, if we're only looking at how much we weigh, we're going to get stuck. We're going to get frustrated. We're going to be like, how come nothing's happening? I'm stuck. I'm stalled.
Right, we want you to
Even
track
though
all of these different metrics.
because they could all be changing at individual times and they have nothing.
Including non-scale victories.
Exactly.
So in the world of intensity,
It's very similar.
the non-scale victory is more of like the RPE.
The RPE is one, but then there's also, think about this. Maybe the weight that you're lifting isn't improving, okay? But maybe your technique is.
I was going to say skill development.
Skill
right?
development is a huge piece. In fact, for people getting started, most of the time, I would say almost every time, for someone who doesn't have a lot of experience in the gym, working out, doing sports, activities, whatever, the improvement they're going to see, even in how much weight they can lift, has nothing to do with their muscles getting stronger. It has everything to do with their central nervous system and how well they start controlling their body.
The first couple of years that you start consistently working out, I'll say, because it's not always weight training, right?
Yep.
It could be whatever sport, whatever you're doing. The first couple of years, most of the adaptations, especially in that first year, are all going to be central nervous system.
Yeah, this is why we tell you guys, don't freak out if you're starting to exercise and you're like, my lean mass hasn't started, I haven't gained any muscle in the last 6 months. Who cares? Look at the absolute intensity. Is it going up?
Yeah.
Okay, 6 months ago, you could only lift 50 pounds. Today, you lifted 100 pounds. Who gives a crap if your lean mass
Oh my gosh.
increased or not?
In the skill development department, here's an exercise that everybody struggles with when they first do it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those that is humbling and surprising. Single leg squat to a box.
To a box. Yep.
It seems like it'll be so easy.
But it's not.
And then you realize, oh, I'm putting my entire body weight on one leg and trying to get down and up from a chair or a bench or whatever you're using as the box, right? Everybody comes in and is like, oh my God, I can't do that. I can't even do it. And they need assistance. So that's when I'll tell them, okay, modify it by holding on to something for both balance and the strength you don't have yet in that one leg, and all of those things, right? The skill development, right? Julie and I can't do that yet. Yeah, a lot of my ladies cannot do that, right? Then there's this, okay, I can use assistance and I can barely hobble out one, right? And then they start realizing, okay, now with assistance I can do 3.
Correct.
Right? Now, with assistance, maybe I can do 5. Now I can do 1 without assistance. These are all improvements.
Right. And this is a good example of how the intensity of the technique can improve the execution of the absolute intensity. Okay, so she's talking about what we call scaling. All right, in bodybuilding they call it regression, right? Progression and regression. In the CrossFit world we call it scaling, and we just talk. It goes up or down either way. So you can scale up or you can scale down. And basically you're taking the movement that is applying a stimulus and you're changing that movement to a level of technical intensity that applies to the individual. You're making the movement less complex. You're taking something away so they can do the thing and then they can get better at it. So weight resistance is a form of intensity. The complexity of the movement, more complex, less complex. If I can do a pull-up and I can knock out 10 pull-ups, there's still benefit in working different things with pull-ups. I can add weight to those pull-ups, put a belt on and put some weight and hang and try to add weight. Or I can say, hey, here's another way. I want to learn how to do a butterfly pull-up or a kipping pull-up or some other kind of, or a muscle-up. I'm going to do something else to improve other aspects, but add to the complexity of what I'm doing, which then increases my ability to do more things.
And we were just working on pull-ups in our summer program, so a lot of the ladies who could not do one pull-up yet, we were working on eccentric or negative.
Pull up and hang and come down slow. So there's
you just jump up and then you try to hold and slowly lower down.
I just thought there's a really good example of this. For those of you who got the book, there is a link in the book to go to my website and download a bunch of free material. One of those materials is a complete scaling and progression guide for all 7 essential movements.
Y'all, this is so awesome.
Right?
I want to steal it and put it in my hand.
You can't steal it. You got to tell them to buy the book. But all the 7 movements. So hinging, squatting, lunging, pushing, pulling, twisting, and carrying. Okay, there is a full handout of, I think I've got 10 to 12 different scaling progressions from easier to harder for every single one of them with explanations on how to do them so that you can find a way to get these movements into your daily activities that's going to work for you.
Oh my gosh, let me just say what he just said, but a different way. For everyone out there who does not have the money financially to work with a coach or join a program or even buy the cheapest program you can find online, that is free with his book. How much is your book? $10 on Kindle.
Between 10 and if you get the hardback, it's like $30 or something like that.
$10 to $30, y'all.
And then there's a whole bunch of free stuff.
You get the free, and then all of the free resources are incredible. But this particular one, if all you did was just work on
start at the top and then try to make everything
these movements, there's your workout program for free, y'all.
Yep.
I don't know how many different ways I can say that. Get that. That is incredible. That will enhance your quality of life and create muscle adaptations and help you build lean mass and all of these things.
All the other things you're worried
just
about.
with that, and it's so simple without having to figure out sets and rep schemes and frequency and all of that other stuff. You just grab that and say, you know what, every day I'm going to take a couple of these movements and
try to get them better. Try to make them better. Yep, absolutely. That's all there is to it. So, okay, and then the next thing we have, so in intensity, how do we understand intensity? We've got resistance.
Hey, Shem, so good to see you on.
We've got resistance, we've got complexity of movement, and then we have time.
Oh, I love this. Love this one.
There's a lot of different ways you can play around with time. Okay? You can make things slower, take longer to do a rep. You can try to do more reps in a shorter amount of time. Okay? You can take longer to do, depending on the workout, right? And we were talking about doing this. Maybe next week we can do a part 2 where we talk about how do all these things apply to the different types of exercises.
Oh, yeah, because we
don't have enough time for that. Right. So these, just where that was going is all of these things we're talking about, the different types of intensity, are applied slightly differently in all the different types of exercises and workouts. So bodybuilding versus CrossFit versus endurance sports versus whatever, right? So
Yep. With bodybuilding, for example, we use the term tempo. For those who are joining my build program, I usually don't talk about tempo other than in the training basics where I teach. I pretty much always want you focusing on slow tempos so you can focus better on the technique and full range of motion, which is another concept. But all of these things. So I always pretty much say it's better to just always go slow just to get the concept down. But in this next program for the build program, we're going to play more with tempos, particularly for the advanced level, which is another thing you were just talking about is making things more complex, right? So when you're more advanced, things feel easier for you, right?
So you have to make
So
them
you have
challenging.
to make them more challenging. You can do the same, the basics work, the basic boring movements, right? The same bench press, squats, deadlifts, right? I always incorporate some modification or variation of these basic movements in every workout. So you don't want to see like every new training program has these crazy new, unique, different entertaining things that people post on social media about standing on your head and pushing the bar with your feet and crazy stuff.
Your
right?
fitness program shouldn't be entertaining, it should be effective.
Yes. So the basics work, but as you get more and more advanced, you have to do something to make these basics more difficult a lot of the time. So tempo is a way that we can do that. And so tempo might be, we're going to go a count of 2 or 3 on the concentric, the flexing part of the movement. And then
You
we're
just
going to
wanted
go
to show your
maybe,
biceps.
yeah, hello vein.
Ow!
Just scratched you. I'm sorry.
Yikes! Tiger lady.
And then my favorite, slow eccentrics, negative. So slow release. Love, 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 that kind of tempo. So we're going to be doing some tempo stuff in this next program. But that's how you can play with what we call time under tension. It's another way of achieving progressive overload.
Yeah, and then
increasing the time that you are creating tension on the muscles.
Right. And then another way to do it is where we get into timed workouts. That's where high intensity interval training comes in. That's where rest periods come in.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yes.
Time can be, I'm going to do, let's say I'm deadlifting. I want to do 2 reps as heavy as I can, and then I'm going to rest 3 minutes and then do 2 reps again. And maybe I do that 8 times. The next week, maybe I do the same thing, but I only rest a minute in between. So I'm fitting more into a shorter period of time and my rest periods aren't as much. So I'm changing the stimulus a little bit to try to force my body to increase its stamina. So there's a lot of different ways we can play with time.
What's
it's
the
not
1 minute
just
thing you talked about before?
the
What do you
1
call
minute?
that? Where you do, there's a term.
Disappointing. What are you talking about?
In CrossFit, the thing.
EMOMs?
Yes. No shortage of innuendo
some
ever.
people didn't get that.
Once again, if you know, you know.
Yeah, every minute on the minute is a structure that works. Tabata is another one, right? 10 seconds, 20
they
seconds.
give you
There's a whole
time
bunch
for
of
the
different
work.
time-specific things. So we'll talk about that in a whole nother thing.
Yeah, we
So-
should totally do that next
Yeah.
week.
So time is another thing that you can do. And understanding those 3 things, now here's the cool part about it. All 3 of those things, the weight, the complexity, and the time that you apply in whatever configuration to the work that you're doing are all modifications to absolute and relative intensity. That means every single one of them is measurable, regardless of how you feel when you're doing it.
Regardless of RPE.
Okay? So what does that automatically mean? I've got an innumerable number of things that I can look at
Word
to
of the
see
day.
if I'm getting better.
There is
if
no
I'm
shortage.
just looking at, well, my lean mass isn't improving, who cares? Look at all of these things that you're looking at. You're doing things faster, you're doing things heavier, you're doing more complex things. You're improving this, you're improving that. Progress, folks.
Oh my gosh, I have to beat this drum. take videos,
Yes.
even if you're not sharing them, right? We ask our ladies in my app to share in the group so we can give them form feedback, so form check videos. A lot of ladies are not comfortable doing that yet, but please, and a lot of the ladies in my group are taking videos, they're just not posting them yet.
But it's better that they take them so they can see for themselves, right?
So they can study themselves, because
Yeah.
if you're able to see, wow, my form improved, I can see it in the videos. That's another way of measuring your progress.
Yeah, that's technique improvement, right?
Yep.
So when your technique improves, guess what it means? It means your brain is getting healthier. Your brain is performing better. So making these connections, guys, it's not about how much you weigh. It's not even, body composition is a better metric than weight, but there's still even more on top of that. So there's layers, guys. Okay, let's talk about what the video title is actually about.
Are you working too hard? Are you,
Or not enough.
Is your workout too intense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. The reason I wanted to highlight the fact that time, technique, and resistance technique and time are measurable is because that is how you determine if you're doing enough. Are you doing the work that you need to do? Are things getting easier?
Is there progress
right?
you can see, you can measure?
If your RPE, how hard it feels, and the work that you're doing never come together, then you're probably not pushing enough.
Yep.
If you're not picking up that heavier weight, if you're not doing that extra rep, if you're not trying to add that extra set, whatever it may be, if you're not trying a more complicated version, if you feel bored with the one that you have because you've got it down and it just bleh.
If you're
Whatever,
just going
right?
through the motions of what it says on the paper.
Yes. This is what she was talking about at the beginning, where just because your program isn't going to progress for you.
It does not determine your level of intensity.
The program is a guideline for you to determine what you need to do to get better.
This is why most of the time you're not going to see programs tell you how much weight to lift.
Right.
I can't tell you that. Two different people could be starting out lifting completely different amounts of load, and then that's going to change over time for those two different people differently.
Yes.
So a program might give you a percentage of absolute to work off of, but it's not going to tell you lift 20 pounds.
But even if it gives you a percentage, that is still just a recommendation for where you should be in that range. If I get a workout and it says do 5 sets of 6 at 85%, and then I put 85% on, I do my warm up, I get there, I get my 85% of my 1 rep max,
and it felt really easy.
And it feels easy, like super easy, then I may like, this really isn't challenging me at all. Now, and then I may go 87, 88, 90% to kind of feel. It depends on what is the goal of that workout. This is a whole nother discussion that is not for here, because that's a whole nother thing, is understanding the intent of the workout, right? Because that workout could be a speed workout where you're supposed to go light, it's not supposed to be heavy, but you're supposed to be trying to go fast.
Right.
Right. And so
what
going
is the goal?
fast is a whole different stimulus. It shouldn't be heavy, but that's a whole other thing. But understanding what is the intent of the workout. If the intent of the workout is to lift heavy, and I put 80% on the bar and it doesn't feel heavy, I may need to put 85% on the bar. So now I can meet the stimulus, meet the goal of the workout at a way that's appropriate for me. So then I know, hey, what does that mean? That means to me, my 1 rep max is probably going up. So the next time I test, it should be heavier. That's progress. That's what we're looking for. So you can make, it's okay. I think a lot of people are afraid to do something not on the program.
Okay.
It's okay to add or take away from the program based on where you are.
Oh my gosh.
You don't have to, there's no one.
Gosh, this could be a whole talk in and of
We're
itself.
not going to show up in your basement gym or at your gym and yell at you because you didn't do it exactly the way the program said.
Oh my gosh. This is huge. I hear this all the time. I just have a really hard time not checking the box. Checking the box is probably holding you back. I always say, here's the thing too. Sometimes your joints are,
Your joints are like, don't check the box.
You have pain in your joints, and maybe it's supposed to be a heavy day, right?
Yeah.
And you cannot do that today. I love to, I teach about intuitive training. This is another masterclass that I taught on how to train intuitively. And I'm teaching that all the time in the KBA. It's all about feel it out for yourself. Where am I at today? What is my capacity? What do I have to give? And then as you get into the workout, you might be surprised. Maybe I can do more than I thought. Maybe I can't do what I thought I could do. So then you need to change what you're doing and don't just check the box and follow the program, right? If the main exercise in the program is a barbell exercise and you're trying to increase your load and you're like, oh my God, my back or my knees can't do this today. I like to then switch to dumbbells and go for reps and lower the weight.
Right.
And maybe I'll go for time instead. I'll focus on something that feels better in my body, that my body feels like, I feel like my body can do this today.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Other times it might be you don't have the time today. And you don't want to just completely skip the workout. This is a big one with our people. Oh my gosh, I don't have the time, so I didn't work out all week. Well, if you had taken 20 minutes to just do the first few exercises, that would be better maybe than doing nothing.
Yes. Yes. So here's another layer of that, or another perspective on that is looking at the minimum effective dose. What do you need to focus on conceptually in order to see progress? If consistency is the number one thing that we need to see progress long term, then instead of not doing something at all because you don't have the time, or doing something that you shouldn't do when you're not feeling it, okay? Maybe it's just, what is the minimum thing I need? The minimum thing I need is move weight, move often, move well, right? So which of those things can I do today? Well, today I can move at all. The move often piece. I need to
Yes.
move. It doesn't have to be what's in the program. It doesn't have to be what I'm supposed to do. But just saying, I'm going to maintain the habit and show up and do something. I'm going to walk on the treadmill. My knees are killing me. I'm not squatting today. That's it. I'm going to get on the Stairmaster. That way I can at least work a little bit of resistance in my legs without straining in my knees, whatever it may be. Find something that fits within, I'm going to meet the requirement of showing up for myself without hurting myself, without setting myself back. That's kind of that piece of that.
Yes, I love that.
Okay, I had another thought that popped in my head and now it's gone.
Are you doing enough? Are you doing too much? What about the too much?
The too much piece?
Yeah. What might that look like if how do you determine if maybe you're doing too much?
I know what it was.
Okay, go ahead.
Continuing on the idea of this goes into the too much piece. On the same token, I don't have enough time to do it today, so I'll do 2 workouts tomorrow.
So glad you said that. Oh my gosh,
Guys,
the doubling up. It's
stop it. Just do what you're doing for the day. There's no such thing as making up a workout. Okay? If you missed it, you missed it.
But also, here's a great way of training your brain, and this is another thing that goes to so many other things, right? I've had this question with macros. I missed my protein today, so should I just eat more protein tomorrow?
No.
When you're borrowing against other days, you're really kind of screwing your body up. Like, teach and train your brain that today is the only opportunity you have in front of you. Tomorrow may not come.
Ooh. Wow.
Don't borrow against tomorrow. Don't say I can leave that for tomorrow. Teach yourself that today is all you have.
Babe, that might be one of the deepest things you've ever said. I've never thought about it that way.
Today is all I have. If today is all you have, what are you going to do with it?
Wow.
We said it wasn't going to be mindset today, but it is always
Wow.
mindset. Yeah,
Guys,
what's
that's-
happening there is you're letting yourself off the hook today.
Because you think you can make it up tomorrow. You're giving yourself an out. Wow.
Yeah, that's it. Stop
Wow.
giving yourself an out every chance you get. That's how you end up with a week of not doing anything.
Dang. All right, I'm done.
That's it. That's what we'll end on.
I'm done.
Today is all you got.
Today's all you got, guys.
You know, that came from my ballet instructor in college. I was a dance major, for those that didn't know. And she always talked about, I don't remember the exact wording she used, but it was like, today's class is all you have. You know, don't miss an opportunity. You can never get this back.
Ooh.
This time
Damn.
back.
Keep
And
it
you know,
coming.
she ended up passing early. I think it was cancer. She didn't have any more time, y'all. Oh, boy. Woo. Do what you have with the time you have, because it's not guaranteed.
It's not guaranteed. Understand that the effort you put in is impactful in more than any number that you see that you're tracking. The effort that you put in is in how well you live your life, the impact you have in other people's lives, and your ability to enjoy the time that you're here today.
Don't be afraid of hard work, y'all. It's the only way you can ever improve in any area of your life.
Awesome. Wow. All right. Take it easy, guys. We'll see you next week. We'll probably continue. We'll do the different types of workouts
Yeah,
and
let's
stuff
do
like that.
different types of training,
And
exercise,
intensity
sports,
and how we adjust the three aspects of intensity
according to your sport.
according to your sport or fitness routine.
Activity. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
I love it.
See you guys.
Bye, y'all.